I love this cozy fireplace and I'm excited about the holidays coming. So it's a fun time to sit down and paint something like this to get you in the holiday spirit. I'm going to get started. I've got my woodland set. Or if you have the cottage series, you'll have these exact paints as well. And you can use tropicals or any other set that you have. We're basically going to use black, brown, green, red. I'm going to actually start with this shadow color, which is a black, just right here in the center. And if you have the tropical set and don't have a black or an add-on to your kit, then you can just mix up some ocean, which is a dark blue, and hibiscus, which is an orange. Or if you've got those two in a set and you need to create a gray or a black, that's the best way to do it that I have found. You can always buy a tube of watercolor paint that's kind of a thick liquid, and then you can just put it inside your palette. It will dry just like these are, and then you can activate them, or it. Just put a little dollop, and you'll always have it in your palette to use. So you can see I'm turning my paper around so I don't get my hand in it, and I'm finding the best way that I can follow that line and keep a straight hand. I say that, and now I can't seem to do it. And I'm okay with a couple of different stroke marks in here. Sometimes I want everything to look super smooth, but the nature of what I'm painting kind of lends itself to having a little irregularity. And you're welcome to start with whatever you want. And now I'm going to follow slightly these little designs that make the grate in this fireplace. I'm making sure some of them touch the edge, and obviously we cannot see that exactly. So you see how I'm kind of using that loosely. The lines will give it structure, like so. And now that is set into place, and we can always go back over and work on that again a little bit later. I am going to let that dry a little bit and work on the bottom of my fireplace. Usually I work from top to bottom, left to right, and today I decided to do something different. You may want to take my typical advice and do that so you don't worry about your hand getting into it. You can always take a little breather, a little break while something is drying, just to make sure that you don't mess up your precious painting. And in this kit I have something called Foxberry, and I'm going to paint that. It's like a cranberry red, so if you want a really bright red, you'll have to either find one in your box or get an extra, like I was talking about. And I'm just going around this because it has ribbon on it. If you mess up, don't worry. No one needs to know that it had a ribbon. And so this is not like a bright cherry red like you would get in the tropical set. So that's up to you. And I'm going to now paint this bow red. You can design these gifts however you want. You can even add pattern onto the paper with a pencil, and you can paint right over that if you want. If you want to just add a little extra fun. And I'm going to do all of these red and white essentially. The way these trees go, they're kind of in these, each bough of these pine, little pine tree decorations has its own little kind of area. So I'm filling that in and then trying to grab the tip ends of these with the tip of my brush just to make sure those are filled in. So that you don't have to fill it all in, but at least if you get the end where the wall essentially would meet, that will, see right here where I left that open, I want to close that in. Otherwise, I'm just kind of dancing my brush in here, just almost dabbing a little bit of water with the pigment into those areas. Call it like kind of dappling. And you can see I've got a little bit of, when I drew this, I was doing it very, very sketchy, looking at a reference, kind of changed it up a little bit, how I liked it. So I have these sketchy little lines, but then I have these berries that are in this garland. And so we want to watch for those and try not to paint over them if we can. I just wanted to go ahead and get that tree painted while I still had that same color of green. And in this set, I used cavern and a little bit of that bear just to make it look a little more hunter green. You can always use your strip to test it, either of a paper in the back of your book or a strip in your take and paint to test out, or if you're at home, you definitely want to have a piece to kind of test out. So this is just a garland, and we don't really know what's what because it's just kind of laying there on the mantle, and you can kind of make it what you want, fill it in more or less. And for these pine needles, you kind of pull back toward yourself to get that little fine hair edge there. I missed that one at the top. And over here, I'm adding a little bit more pigment into that area and just trying not to get into those berries if I can help it. Waiting for some of that to dry, we can take our gold that we made out of, if you've got this kit, Sand Ridge, Daylight, and maybe a tad bit of Bear. And while I've got that on my brush, I'm just going to add a little bit into this Fireplace before I clean it off. And glow of the fire. Start on our Fireplace at the edges here. That black should be nice and dry, and you can make your fireplace just white and black. You can add marble details if you want it to look like something more that you have at home. Going with your decor. I have an interior design degree, so when I create these, I like to think about what the environment might look like or how this might look framed if you really like what you created. And I think these are fun with the holiday ones because you can get a frame that fits an 8x10 or 5x7. You can have an 8x10 frame that has a mat for 8x10, and then you can just swap out seasonally some of your take and paints that you make so that you have something year round. I have a book that's called Seasons, and it gives you one painting a month that goes along with the season that you might be in. So that's kind of fun to kind of keep up the creativity, to just pull that out at least once a month, kind of make a date with yourself to do that. And now I'm going to take a little bit of a very watered down version of that and put that in the background here. You could leave it white, design it however you want. And I'm going to say that this is tile and it's in a similar color, kind of beigey. It's a little throwback style here. But you could make it any kind of color you want. a little bit dark. So if you have something like that, you can just take a clear brush, kind of activate that paint, and then put it into your paper towel. All right, and while we've got this brown, we can kind of come in here and paint some of these logs. We may want that to look a little darker. I'm going to add a little bit down here into the grate because you can see it through. And you can see I'm not painting all of it, leaving some white. So it looks like texture in there, and then we can take a little bit of black. Either wait till it dries or go ahead and add it in a few places on top. If it's wet, it'll just go everywhere anyway. Okay, giving that dimension, and clear our brush off. Now we're going to just add some of the detail to our garland up here, just barely tapping in, not filling in the whole berry. If you painted over them, you can just usually just kind of cover them a little bit. I want to fill in a little more red there. I kind of took what I had drawn here and then added some extras when I did my example. So you can decide if you want to use a pencil and do your own design here. Because like I added a red stripe here and there's no line for that. You could do that here at the toe as well if you wanted. There's a little kind of rick-rack look to it. And we'll do some green snowflakes. Not sure what you guys do for your stockings. We have ones that have everyone's name across the top, and they're that aisle fair style. They're super cute. We keep adding people to our family, so I keep trying to order ones that will match and look alike. So I now have 2 daughter-in-loves, and that's exciting. And other girls, I have 4 sons in my guys' lives, so that's a lot of fun. Finally have some girls around. And I have a grandson who is a ton of fun. He makes everything full of joy. Alright, and maybe I'll add a little bit of red here to kind of accent that. And now we'll work on our fire. Some of that white space, I'm just adding the orange here, putting in a little bit of that reflection. And we need to paint around with just a lighter gray than what we did here for the outside of that metal firebox. And I think you've got the line there to go and kind of know where to do that. Take some of the mystery out, but we really don't want it to be an exact line, so you can kind of fade that yellow and black together and decide how dark you want that to be in the background. Clear my brush, and I'm just going to go slightly over that just to kind of make it less white of the paper. And put a little bit of shadow. So let me get some of my shadow color. Kind of because the fireplace is going to cast some shadow. It's going to bring light, and there's light in the room, and then there's light from the fireplace, so you can decide how you want to express that. Just kind of putting a big swath there because it's far away from the fireplace, and then I do want to do a little bit of gray, sort of touching, you see, away from that garland. So it's kind of casting in the room, very moody. Just barely touch my brush. I'm not doing a whole stroke there. Very watered down, as you can see. And I'm going to tone down the white of that paper just a bit. I am going to add a line over here, not because it has to be casting a shadow, but just to kind of give it some weight. And we've got some kind of flooring in front here, so I don't know what that is, carpet or wood floor. You can add in what you want or just make the impression of it. You can obviously do the wall around here. I think I may have done that in my example. So the way you would do that is just take, I'm squeezing the water in this brush now, or you can add a little bit of water if you got a regular brush, and just kind of, after that, it's pretty dry. And all I'm doing is just kind of, it's water with a tiny bit of pigment, and it's going to only dry in a few places where you'll see it. Give it more of a homey, cozy feel. This is what you would do if you're doing a sky as well. And then we don't really want to fill it all the way to the edge. You can if you want. I don't feel like doing that. And I want it to just seem more like the impression that the wall is painted, or that the glow of the fireplace is in that room. But you can put more details in there, design it how you want, but this is a really cute fireplace for your Christmas.